So we're going to kick it off today. And I got to tell you, I'm so excited that all of you have chosen to join us today. Today's topic is about looking at ourselves and examining what it means to be a powerful woman. Too often, society defines us. It defines our bodies and our womanly sorts of powers as less than, as something that actually has to be fixed. But how much that message defines you? Perhaps it defines you unconsciously. Our powers as women, our bodies, and the way that society has defined us, I think deserves to be looked at and deserves to be examined. Our guest today is Dionne Johnson, and she challenges and empowers women to find not only clarity around how wonderful and powerful women are, but she also teaches women all over the world how to tap in and use the gift of womanhood to change our world for the better. Dionne Johnson is known as a womanologist, which I love, and she is an ex-midwife and director in public services. She's pioneered, coordinated, and led special services serving highly vulnerable and marginalized client groups. I got to tell you, she is a powerhouse. Dionne is a multi-award-winning women's champion with re-empowerment of women at the heart of her work. She works behind global leadership scenes as a master coach, as a strategic ally, as a trusted advisor to some of the most influential women across all sectors and all industries. She challenges the inner narratives about what it means to be an incredible influencer in today's fast-changing workplace. Her clients are chief executives, directors, heads across sectors, because when women truly thrive, not just act like they're thriving, but they really are thriving and do so across boards, organizations, industries, it makes the world a more inclusive, more prosperous, and happier place. Dionne was born with a pronounced facial disfigurement. Her story of unmasking is an absolutely powerful metaphor that's now captivating and inspiring leaders across the globe to show up, to speak up, and to shake things the hell up authentically and within the sphere of influence. So I got to tell you, it is my honor and privilege to welcome Dionne with us today. Thank you for being here, Dionne.
Such a huge pleasure to be here, Linda. Thank you so much for hosting this and inviting me.
Well, I'm going to be the moderator today. And so you guys all know me or getting to know me, whatever. And I just want to say that I want you to really step back and as we start, think about what Linda said about what are those unconscious or hidden reasons why we just don't step up, that chatter in your head. And as Dee and I talk about this, and we're just going to have a conversation, just wonder and reflect on how much of this is impacting you, impacting other women that you work with, impacting the workplace, because we are in such a significant time of change that this is, we all have to get our footing back again. And so what does that really mean? What does it mean to go back? And so Dionne, I want to start with this question for you. Give us a little bit of your story today and how you chose to take on this work.
So that's a huge question. It's really multifaceted. I just celebrated my 55th birthday a couple of weeks ago. So I've been walking this journey a little while. You know, I've been on this road a long time. You know, when Facebook reminds you of posts that you posted 9 and 10 and 12 years ago, I think I sound like a broken record. You know, I feel like I sound like I've been saying women are powerful, women are powerful, women are powerful for a very long time. And I think it was something that a message that I was born to share. And it really started at my birth. I was born with a facial disfigurement. And so I didn't develop conventionally in my mother's womb, and my face didn't develop conventionally. So I had what's called a hair lip, where the lower aspect of my face was gaping and the top half of my face was asymmetrical. So I had quite a pronounced congenital disfigurement when I was born. And I spent a lot of my early childhood right into my adulthood going for corrective surgery, having lots of work done to try and make me right again. And as part of that corrective surgery process, I was gifted an artificial eye at the age of 4. An artificial eye, which was this sort of plastic shell, perspex shell, that was painted to look like my good eye, and it would slip in to my eye socket over my disfigurement. And then I had these dark glasses. They were really big and very dark, and they covered the top half of my face. And the whole point of those gifts, I called them, were to help me hide. To help me hide my disfigurement, to help me to blend in, to help me to look more normal, you know. And I really do remember that day when I first had my first artificial eye fitted. And I remember standing, looking in the mirror, and my mum was behind me on one side, and Mr. Marmion, the surgeon that I'd known since my birth, was standing behind me on the other side. And the three of us sort of peering at this woman, this young girl, a 4-year-old, in the mirror. And I remember his words. I remember him he was so pleased, and he led to my ear and he whispered, "There you go, my love, now you're beautiful." And I remember that day, and I remember his words, how they touched my soul. And I remember examining his words and wondering whether that was true, like whether I was actually beautiful now. And I remember saying to myself, you know, I don't know about beautiful, but perhaps I look a little bit more normal. Perhaps I look a little more normal. And well, I call it the beginning of my life behind the mask, because I spent a lot of time, and from that day on, I limited the number of people that was able to see me behind that. I limited the number of people that, you know, I met people from that point that didn't know what I looked like behind that mask. And, you know, people that knew me before, I never let them see me like that again. So I went to school with my masks on. I went into higher education with my mask on. I went into the world of work with my masks on. And it really wasn't until, and that was just the way I lived my life, just hidden. I like to say in women's circles, and I love being in a room full of women, because I like to say that I made a baby with a man who never really saw me. You know, I never let people see what I look like. And so, and that was the way I lived my life until my mid-40s. And it was 2009. And it was an incredible year. A Black man was moving into the White House, you know, and Hillary Clinton was, you know, one stage it looked like Hillary Clinton might be president. So there was all of this talk about extraordinary things were happening. And the UK right then was going through real intense financial crisis. And actually it was official. We were crashing, and it was official. And so there was a lot of talk about these superstars, Obama, Hillary Clinton, Michael Jackson died that year. So we were talking about Michael Jackson as a god of entertainment, all these special people who could do special things. And then there was this other conversation about the rest of us, almost like there was this other group, superstars and special people, and then everybody else who was doomed to suffer from the financial situation that the world was in, and that weren't in that group, weren't in the elite group. And I found myself struggling with this concept so hard. Like I've always known that I was great, always known that I had something to bring to the table, but I knew that my results weren't dazzling like that. And I wondered what was going on. Why can't I make the kind of difference that I want to make, that I feel like I was born to make? Like, what's really going on with this? And the conversations were on everybody's lips, and you know, I got downer and downer and downer. I really hit, some people call it the dark night of the soul. You know, we're just wrestling on the inside, just wanting to make more difference and wondering why I couldn't show up the way that I felt on the inside. And right in the middle of all of that, Denise, my aunt died. Not just any old aunt, but, you know, the kind of aunt that is like your mum. You know, her kids were like my brother and sisters. So my aunt died. It was a huge deal. And we're Jamaican, you know, so we do death in big style. You know, everybody from all around the place came flooding to the house, and we had drinks every night. The men would be over there playing dominoes, and, you know, the women would be in the kitchen baking and cooking up a storm, and the kids would be running around. It was a huge deal. And I saw Jay. And Jay was a friend of mine that I had not seen for a long time. And we were talking, but this time she had a 10-year-old son that I'd never met. And right in the middle of that conversation, that 10-year-old boy did something that changed the trajectory of my life. He pointed almost in slow motion, lifted his finger like this. He pointed at my face and he said, "Mom, your friend, she's so ugly." And when he said it, it felt like somebody hit me right here inside. But do you know what, Denise? I noticed something else at the very same moment. It's like I was watching that scene from the outside, and I saw the composure that I had when his words hit me, and I felt the pain on the inside. I saw the disconnect. I saw that there was this one, like if you were in that room, you couldn't tell how his words hurt me. Like you couldn't tell how I felt. I held it together, you know, like we do. Like I held my composure, and on the inside, I felt like I was dying. I felt the pain was excruciating. So there was this pain on the inside and this hard, cold composure on the outside. And I saw that like for the first time and wondered, why am I doing that? And to cut a very long story short, that week, it's like every single day that week, something else happened. The following day, somebody tapped me on the shoulder, some kids tapped me on the shoulder, pointed at my face, had a belly laugh to my face, and then ran off. You know, every day that week. And by the end of that week, I'd lost my dark glasses. And it was the day of my aunt's funeral. I thought, I can't go. My sister said, "Of course you're going. And here's my sunglasses." But something was stirring on the inside of me, something that I didn't understand. A pain was mounting, and I just felt like discombobulated. My mask was lost. It had fallen down the back of the radiator, but we didn't know. I had to go and face all these people, and I could feel on the inside of me that every time somebody looked in my direction, I felt like saying, please don't look at me. That's what's going on the inside, but on the outside, I was holding it together. My composure was good. And by the end of that situation, I was in a lot of pain. And I found myself with my knees, on my knees, with my hands up in the air, saying, "God, something's really hurting." And I had this conversation. I don't say conversation with God. You might say I had a conversation with my higher self or the universe. I don't know. But I had this conversation. It was very real to me. And this conversation was a series of questions. And these questions were, "Dion, why are you hiding? What's all this covering up about anyway? When are you going to let people see the real you? When are you going to show up for real, Dion?" I couldn't believe it. I'd never thought about it. So since the age of 4 to in my mid-40s, almost 40 years, I've been wearing these artificial eye and these dark glasses. And I never questioned it. I just thought that that's what people who look like me have to do. We have to hide our flaws. And, you know, that long story short, on my knees with my hands up in the air like that, I made up in my mind that I was going to learn to show up for real. I was going to learn how to let people see the real me. And it was a huge deal. I made a plan. After a while, I just worked the plan. I got some help. And eventually I learned how to drop the mask and let people see my face. That was just really the beginning of it. What I realized was that dark glasses and artificial eye was just a very powerful metaphor for how I'd been masking and hiding and covering my whole self up, my whole being. And that's when I realized that, I just embarked on this journey that I wanted to find out who I really was and learn how to show up for real. I started sharing my story, Dee, and, you know, about what I'd gone through with my facial disfigurement.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, I started to get mail from women around the world.
Mm.
You know, I started to hear from people who, beautiful women, you know, high level leader women, high achieving women, who would write to me and say, yep, Dion, like, I don't have a face like yours, but I know what it means to be hiding. I know what it means to be playing small. I know what it means to be withholding parts of myself, disconnected from parts of myself. I'm hiding and hating and suppressing and depressing and not showing up. And I know what that feels like. I'm feeling the pain of that too. Though my life looks like this on the outside, on the inside, I'm feeling that exact same thing. It started to teach me. They started teaching me, telling me their stories. I started, you know, developing my story. We started talking to each other, working with each other. It affected my work like never before. And what I learned was, I learned so many things. I'm still gleaning from this experience. But what I really learned was that you can be entirely looking successful on the outside. Like, you can have the highfalutin job, the corner office, the snazzy car, kids gone to private school, big house, summer house, all kind of house, and still really feel so disconnected from who you really are, really feel so disconnected from the truth of your power, really be unsure about what it is that you really, who you are and what you bring and what you stand for. Like, you can have this life on the outside and it becomes something completely different on the inside. I begin to learn that from other women, and so begin to take what I was learning on my own show up journey and create programs that would support women to show up in their own way, find their true selves and show up. And I begin to learn that we are so disconnected from the truth of who we are as powerful women.
Wow, that I have to just take a deep breath and pause. And I hope many of you are just like pausing, because in your story, how many of us have some part where we are hiding?
Yeah.
I want to translate. You know, there's just so many questions going through my mind, and I know everybody else has 100. I just want to ask you, so what was one or two things out of this whole thing that you learned how to take the mask down, how to every day show up as being authentic? I mean, especially in a world that is so defined by beauty. I was just talking to somebody last night about the beauty bump, male and female. When you have it, you get privileged, you know, and you don't do anything but show up because you look like everyone. You look on the scale of what the beauty, we have artificial intelligence that talks about how to define beauty and what does it look like and everything. So for you, out of all of this and what you've talked to other women, what's one or two things that helped you say, this is how I show up every day?
So here's the thing. I remember hiring a coach for my business years later, and my coach saying to me, hey, people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. So she said, you need to really get yourself out there. You need to really tell people who you are. You need to really show up and let people see you. You know, she said, you must be like Marmite. That's like this thing that people either love or hate. You know, you must, you know, show up as the real you and let people choose. You know, let the people that really like you gravitate towards you. Let the people who don't like you go away. And that's good in business, she was saying. So she said, right then, she rubbed her hands together and said, right then, tell me about you. Tell me who you are. Tell me what you like. Tell me what your value. Tell me about you. And I remember sitting there. This was probably about 4 years after that initial unmasking. And I remember these tears rolling down my face as I began to realize I don't really know who I am. I don't
Mm.
know. I've been her for him. I've been her for them. I've been this one for that person. I've been this over here. I've been wearing all, trying to juggle. So the first thing that I really needed to do was make a decision that I was worth getting to know.
Mm.
That it was not,
Wow.
it was no longer important to try and be what they wanted me to be. That I became convinced that what I needed to do for myself was find myself, find out who I am and show up as her. I had been a midwife for many years and I saw the power of humanity, and I wanted to know how I could free that power so that I could be that powerful in the world. And I realized that the key to unlocking that power was for me to find out who I am and what I'm like. You know, I wanted to know what was real for me, not just what I put on to please people, not just what they expected of me, but what was true for me. And so, yeah, that was really, really key in my development, finding out who I am for real.
Oh my goodness. What was the other thing?
I think, you know, getting help along the way. I think that what I realize is that, so there's women, we carry so much shame. We carry so much confusion about who we're supposed to be being in the world. And we carry it secretly.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of keep it to ourselves. We try and work it out. We try not to think about it. We just try and power on. We try and soldier on and try and make it work at work, make it work in our marriages, make it work with the kids, make it work with everything. And I say, this is not something that we unpack alone. That, you know, it's time, like this kind of organ. That's why leadership is around, because it's really important. And more of us are learning how to come together. But I want us to learn how to come together and decide that this is one of the ladies, I can't remember who it was here in the audience, said, I come today and I haven't got my makeup on. Great. Like, we just need to be able to gather together and no mask, a no mask zone, to be able to talk and say, this is what's happening for me, not just in a rant fest or in a way that you're just, you know, blurring out, you know, vomiting what's wrong, but in a way that gets it out. And then you say, nevertheless, I need to find my way forward. And then you support each other to find your way forward. I think it's about coming together to heal, coming together to clear our heads and get our higher quality thinking back, and to develop our messages and develop our visions about how we want to impact our world. Like, that's what we should be doing when we gather in places like this. And I think it's an essential key to our stepping back into our power.
I just want to, the chat room has got a couple comments and I just have to say a couple of them. Jasmine says, this is a powerful and timely message for her because she's on the brink of launching her business and you're just challenging and inspiring her. Laura talks about the metaphor that you gave. You gave birth to yourself and how ironic it was that you were a midwife. You know, the mask-free zone is so important. And so you talked a little bit about, and I know we're coming down because, and first of all, let me ask everyone, if you have questions, if you have comments, please put them in the chat room. This is, you know, we're trying to make these interactive, but please, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, please share it in the room, because one of the things that me and my team members are trying to do when we talk about what does this time become for people, and our goal was to have it as a zone where if you're interested in unmasking, as you put it, but really deepening your ability to be an advocate, an ally, and you know, a person who works in diversity, equity, and inclusion, you've got to do the work on yourself first. Absolutely. Which is what's so powerful about your message. You cannot lead if you have not done the work on yourself first. Yeah. So,
well, you can be in leadership. You can be in leadership and not having done this work. But what I find is that the world, well, you'll know what it's like. It's like people who haven't done the work interacting with people who haven't done the work. So there's these great big mission statements in every organization will have them about how they want to tackle inequality, how they want things to be equitable, how they want things to, you know, the world to be a better place, change the world. Those mission statements are in every one of our organizations. But what we have are people who haven't done the work interacting with each other. So it becomes power struggles and one-upmanship games and hiding our true thoughts and trying to sound like everybody else. We have group nodding, so everybody just goes with the common, the popular narrative, daring not to rock boats, daring not to call things out, daring not to offer new perspective, because it's scary. That stuff, when you don't know who you are, when you're not standing flat-footed in your authentic self, those kind of things are really difficult to bring into leadership. So it's not, you can't be a leader. You can be a leader in title and not be leading anything different. Yeah. You can be a woman who has insight and ideas about how your industry is falling short or needs to step up. And that industry, those people that you work with, have no idea that you think that, because it's hidden, because it's hard to speak up, because it's hard to bring it to the table. And so that's why this work is important.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, my goodness. We have just a couple minutes, and I want to go back to Laura's metaphor of giving birth. And you and I've had conversations, you know, a couple times now, about the way the woman's body is defined and how we are shaming, but particularly around, you know, this need of our bodies don't know how to give birth. Can you just talk a little bit about that part?
Well, I think that's a really powerful picture. So for those people who don't know what we're talking about right now, so I'm a midwife, and I was a midwife for a long time. And I watched from my student days, right up until I left, like in the early noughties, I watched the power of woman diminish. So I'll give you a story about a month ago. A month ago, my daughter asked me to go and check out her friend who had just had a baby who was struggling to breastfeed. And when I went to see the friend, her breasts were perfect, her nipples were great, this baby was hungry and ready to feed, but she just felt so out of sorts that this naturally perhaps the most womanly act of all, this woman struggled with. She said, you know, she kept saying things like, I don't think I've got enough milk. I don't think my breasts are okay. I don't think the baby knows what to do. I don't think, you know, there was just this breakdown in trust that her body was enough, that her baby was enough, and that they together were enough. And this, I think, is indicative of what I saw happening over my years in midwifery, how women, as the medicalization increased, the trust that we had in ourselves and our body and our wisdom decreasing. Now, I see the power of humanity. I saw it daily in midwifery, that we have this huge powerful expression. It's like this capacity to elegantly expand, to bring forth new things. Like we can do that. Like it's a metaphor. You understand that it's a birthing metaphor, but we can apply it to the way that we can show up in leadership. We have this expansion that is elegant, that is really, it happens, that is our natural way. We can go inward and know things. I watched women go inward and collect what was needed for now, like they know things before they were knowable. I'd see women say, no, something's not right, we need to check this, because there was this powerful way to know. And I see how women in the labor room can occupy space. They weren't apologetic about their being. They took up room. You know, I saw women with their leg over here, their arm over there, and it was unapologetic. Like, just imagine if we could translate that to business, to leadership of our world right now, where we're just apologizing, where it seems to me like we're just apologizing for wanting more, or, you know, asking for more or needing more. We're just so afraid to take up space. I saw women able to breathe in support. So there would be people in the room, labor supporters, and that she would breathe in. She'd tell you that she couldn't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. And then she'd breathe in the support of the people around her and turn it into power to bring forth this thing. I saw this power, and it's mighty and it's magnificent. And I think it's a powerful metaphor for who we could be being in our world that's upside down right now. Let's face it, the system is not working, and we need a new sound in leadership. We need a new kind of voice. And I believe that we're it. But we must do this work. We must remember how powerful we are, and the relationship of that power, the functionality of that power at times like these.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. The chat is blowing up. I love it. I'm sorry, Linda, we're going a little bit over what we normally do, but the chat is blowing up, and I just have to capture just a couple of the conversations that are going in here. Laura shares with us that, the fact that the face is disfigured at birth, what a question mark, or through pregnancy. What does that say about our culture? What does the culture say about our bodies and how they influence our naturalness? We have another comment. Our bodies are sexualized, and it's natural, fully whole, as they are. Our breasts are created for life and then sexualized. Michaela says, I love this conversation. How we talk to our girls, the value we tell them that they have in comparison to boys is an important part of changing the future. Girls equals pretty, sweet, nice. Boys, fast, strong, smart. We emphasize girls' looks to define their worth as children, and we define boys' worth as their actions they bring to the table. When we reverse this trend, we will start to reverse how women look at themselves and define their worth. And the last comment, maybe we got a couple more. Anyway, let me pause here just for a hot second, because I think what is really important is for us to kind of get in a small group. Linda, if we could do maybe 2 in a group so that we get everybody kind of talking. And there's 3 things we want you to do. One is, what surprised or moved you about today's conversation? And then as you heard it, what stirred in you? What one thing stirred in you that you can leverage, or your power, or you can help leverage the power or support of another woman so that she can show up in her most powerful self? Is that okay? Are we good? And so let's try to say about 8 to 10 minutes, have that conversation. And don't forget, share your name with the other person. This is a platform for connecting and supporting each other. The fact that you showed up demonstrates that you are working on your own power. You are working on doing the work so that your womanity, love that, shows up and changes something, makes a big impact in this world.